Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here once again to do another One Piece chapter review. I'm still feeling a bit ill, but I am much better. But yeah. Anyway, chapter 1066, The Will of Orahara. Arguably my favorite chapter in the arc so far, but also the one with perhaps the most controversial revelation in the arc as well, and one that has probably split and divided the fans. A very, very common criticism of the series, but I'll get to that later. But yeah, let's see. Jammer 6, but before that, the cover for Jammer 66 and Motionless Excursion, Volume 23. Jammer returns with an added bonus as we see the Jammer lot flying and with Caesar back to like the Jammer Kingdom, in which most of it seems to still be intact or at least managed to repair itself. Let's see. A nice shot of the kingdom, but yeah, a very small shot of like the siblings, so yeah, and all that stuff. So yeah, to be expected from that distance, but oh well, but yeah. Anyway, on to the actual, but yeah, they have finally escaped Whole Cake Island, so that probably means that this little volume, this post-cover story, will probably wrap up. So I assume that they'll either do another Straw Hats bounties, or we'll get a one cover story at some point after. But yeah, Will of Orahara. The Straw Hats are shocked to learn that, let's see, there used to be a futuristic city like Egghead in the past and all like that stuff. But he, of course, tells them that it was long in the past. As he revealed that there was once a man known for archaeology that gave his life to research this kingdom's existence. And apparently, timeline matches up with a certain machine that was discovered originally from this kingdom and or originally produced in that era, if you will. The machine that we saw from the last chapter. Let's see, with Robin end up asking if it was made during the Void Century, with Ritzy Shocker asking her how much she actually knows. Nami asking what Robin knows about this, with Shocker realizing that this might be a sore subject for Robin, given the fact that 22 years ago her people were wiped out and all that stuff, and everyone she knew and loved there. As he goes on, he suspects that they were wiped out for a particular fact that they knew about this kingdom's existence, which, well, as those who have seen the chat remember Robin's flashback, that was clearly the case. Anyway, the Shaka Vegapunk begins to explain about how the Void Century was likely a conflict between, of course, the 20 kingdoms and this ancient kingdom and all that stuff. Let's see. And that the 20 kingdoms in the end won, and they created the world government and what we know today and all that stuff. Basically, information we know, but of course, being told to the Straw Hats, and that they've probably also erased their existence entirely to make sure their ideals are not passed down. And all that stuff, with the Straw Hats shocked, with particularly Nami and Usa. See, Frankie think. Also Sanji is also shocked, but Frankie in particular is like, whoa, talk about romance and mystery. It's all about, wow, this is romantic and mysterious. And Sanji is realizing that whoever learns about this, with Shaka confirming it, yes, they will be eliminated, with, like, of course, some of the Straw Hats going like, why are you telling us then? With Usopp saying that, with Usopp banging his head, trying to say, forget, I want to forget it, and all that stuff. Though he says it's only really a theory. But then the Shaka Vegapunk goes to Nico Robin and says that if Orahara was wiped out just for this, theory, let's see, that would mean that the world government would confirm its truth and all that stuff. That's true. Robin, let's see, now questioning why on earth are you speaking this to her and all that, in what capacity like he's speaking all this. And talking about how the skulls of Ahura did like such huge researches on that. And asked why not someone of his status within the world government asked the question themselves and all that stuff. With Shaka saying that, yeah, it wouldn't matter if he was, let's see, a part of the world government or not. He'd be eliminated just for speaking about it. We Super stop going about how he doesn't want to hear it as this is torture and asks them to just let them go. Sorry there. But with Robin asking, how on earth did he find out about the kingdom then if all of Ahura's, text and information was destroyed? But let's see, Vegapunk or the Shaka one reveals that the will of Ahura still lives on, talking about how the events that day shocked the world, about the place with the most knowledge and all that stuff was, and only a single survivor and all that stuff, and the whole government declared them criminals that were trying to, the scholars that were fanatics trying to destroy the world. And at 7 months afterwards, he went to visit. He went and took there to pay his respects to the remains there, as he knew Professor Clover in real life and all that stuff, and was his friend. So he was going to pay his respects, which shocked Robin that he knew him. And when Clover was as an adventurer in his youth, I think someone mistaking him as being a pirate, but he traveled the world in search of these vertex, and he even got arrested by the Navy 10 times. But as a result, it made him the most famous archaeologist in the world. As a result, the scholars were drawn to him in his quest, and Ahura became like the famous archaeological place it was today. But it also eventually caused their downfall and their tragedy. So, as we get our first short glimpse of Vegapunk, we see a large lump of a head and all that stuff. But as he sees even the tree burned, you're stunned to see that all the books that the Ahurans that were like throwing out into the water were like still there and all that stuff. And that the Marines had left them there and all that stuff. And in their final moments, the archaeologists were able to preserve all their information for the future and all that stuff. And the fact that the soldiers were too ignorant to realize it and what they were to see their value, Vegapunk realized that Ahura had won in the end, and that someone was able to come and collect that information. He was so touched that even he had a shed of tears for what was coming. And we start to see Robin cry, thinking back to like her last moments with her mother. She told her how she has things to do as they were leaving and all that stuff. As we see the flashback of them throwing all the books. And like the final message about history is the greatest aspect in your future, Robin, and all that stuff. And the moment with her crying with Soul Jaguar telling her how her mother's noble and Ahura fought the world. Which you see Robin crying. This angers the Straw Hats a bit. For someone even asking to release their shoes and all that stuff. Because it's like, why are you making the precious Robin cry? With Robin telling them that Vegapunk, that as he suspected, uncover the existence of that ancient kingdom, with him then finally get confirmation that yes, this is true. For asking where the books are now. Interesting, Vegapunk wanted to take them back to Punk has with him, but of course, there's no way his superiors would allow it. But instead, he encountered quite a few people that day. As you know, 22 years ago, we go back to 22 years ago when, after the Ohara incident, Vegapunk ends up seeing giants, and from the looks of things, they seem to be the new giant warrior pirates. Hold on, let me just new giant pirates. New giant warrior pirates. They appear to be, for my guess is Hydrogen, Gerd, and maybe Goldberg, or even maybe Sturzan. I could be wrong. Sorry about that. But yeah, he sees them digging up the books and all that stuff, but wondering if they understand its value. But a figure ends up saying hello to Vegapunk, and able to tell because it's its head. And Vegapunk realizes that it's revealed to be none other than Dragon, who I will admit the design apparently looks like a sort of like Castro evolutionary design and all that stuff. But yeah, we see Dragon age 33 here, and he's captain of apparently a group called the Freedom Fighters. And let's see, we get our first glimpse of Vegapunk, in which, yeah, he looks like a young Albert Einstein with his black hair, with a very large, giant head. Let's see, even bigger than, say, like, what if Jimmy Neutron's head just kept growing and growing? And he has his tongue stuck out, and he's like 43 years old. So yeah, Vegapunk is 43, 10 years older than Dragon. That's kind of crazy to think about. I figured he'd be older, but yeah. But yeah, he's able to tell that Vegapunk, and his head keeps getting larger. But he came here to pay his respects to Clover, which is he is there too, and. Let's see, comment about his adventures, but he is just like shocked about the news about how he tried to destroy the world, and he thinks that it's nothing but a bad joke of cover up or propaganda, if you will. Let's see, Dragon tells him that the giants are not thieves, and as he looked into it and all that stuff, and apparently that they're from Elbaf, and know the value of these books. And due to their captain, who was a strange man all covered in bandages. As the captain said, Ohara gave their lives to save this asset of humanity, and they cannot let it be erased from history. As he says, it's a good thing that, the government didn't get their hands on it. Let's see. But he goes accusingly at Vegapunk about how it's his government and all that stuff. With him going like protesting a bit. With the Dragon saying how he was sick, how you. Let's see that Vegapunk has now become a government lapdog when he refused to join his freedom fighters. With Vegapunk saying that Dragon not to be foolish and that it'd be a waste of his intelligence and his time to work with an impoverished military force and all that stuff. With Dragon understanding, yeah, I understand, you're honest to a fault. With Vegapunk going on about how the world government is a massive organization, and then there's those in the Navy in particular are reasonable. And saying that, tell Dragon not to lose sight of the long-term goal. With Dragon understanding, but let's see, this has really done it for him. The government just killing these, harmless scholars just for trying to, just figure out a bit of history with extreme violence and all that stuff. He's decided to now create a full-on military force that can actually fight back against the government. And it's interesting that, according to Vegapunk, he hates war and all that stuff. So He vows to change the world, and we'll make sure O'Hara and Clover's deaths do not die in vain and all that stuff. And apparently, Vegapunk Shaka reveals that by the end of that year, we joined with Emperor Ivanko and Kuma to create the revolutionary army that now, shakes the world to this day. And we kind of see Kuma in a similar sort of Castro-like look. And we get all the Straw Hats' reactions to all this bits of information. Nami, thinking about how intense Luffy's father is. Usopp interested about the fact that Elbaf was ancient. Robin shocked that Dragon had a connection with Clover. Frankie being reacted about about Kuma and why on earth he'd helped us and why did Vegapunk turn him into a cyborg. And Sanji just being like, oh, so Eva was part of the revolutionaries. Let's see. As he reveals that he will not, he agrees that the letting the government know O'Hara libraries is still alive and all that stuff. So he secretly travelled there and met their captain. And from the silhouette we get, it looks like Jaguar D Sol, and it seems that it implies that he's alive. And he read all those books, and all that information is in his brain now. He's continuing out their great work by researching them. With Robin now crying to tears, probably realizing that the giant captain was probably Sol. Granted, Shaka says he's currently in hiding. He can't tell her more, whoever that giant might be, so this is giving a hint that it may or may not be Sol, but I think most people have pretty much accepted that it's Sol. As you see Robin just smiling and crying her tears. With her thanking Vegapunk for ensuring O'Hara's will. With him saying that he's simply an ally of nature, a scholar, and all that stuff. And it's, in the fields of study, if you will. Anyway, the boots start moving and all that stuff, and you can see some of them sliding and all that stuff with Usopp being dragged. Let's see. As he decides to go and show them, something, but he's not releasing them just yet. And let's see. Then we finally cut back to the scrap heap where Luffy is trying to ride the robot and all that stuff, realizing that there's nothing inside to ride it and all that stuff. With Chopper realizing it might be something that goes on its own. And they try giving all these robot commands to go, with eventually Luffy and him just trying to call out names like Romonosuke or Robo King, with Bonnie saying they're being childish. Then some shockwave happens that makes it appear that the robot exploded. And then we see a half man here that looks like an older version of Vegapunk, but something is different about his head. As he asked for Rayquaza health, as he found again whatever he was doing. Apparently, he did some space-time. Failed to do some sort of space-time warping, if you will. Luffy thinking back to the scenes like Kimon, as he ends up dragging her, but Bonnie recognizes him as Vegapunk, and Vegapunk realizes that Luffy is Dragon's son, and sees Bonnie there about how she's grown. And she's angry, but Luffy ends up asking about his floating shoes, and he tells him to press the button underneath and all that stuff. And they both do, and they fly too high in the sky along with Chopper. Luffy, of course, is enjoying it. Chopper's being spooked, and Vegapunk saying, I require help, as we get the full-on introduction of Dr. Vegapunk, the smartest man in the world, SSG, Navy Special Science Group leader. And we see that he's actually got an apple on the top of it, replacing his big head, ending the chapter. Boy, this was a very huge chapter, and arguably my probably favorite in the Egghead one. This mainly because it's arguably the saddest backstory in One Piece with Orabans, with the tragedy of O'Hara. I remember when I watched those last 2 episodes in the flashback, I was literally crying, which I know, probably some people are like, oh, don't get too emotional, but I think many people got emotional for Robin's flashback, whether they watched the anime or read the manga. But yeah, but then again, this is One Piece. This is the manga series that might likely make you cry for a ship. So yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting about how the Straw Hats. This it's very interesting to see the Straw Hats learning. Let's see all this information that we've known for like hundreds of chapters about the Void Century and the Hundred Year Kingdom, which only Robin among them knew, but she never really went into details about them, whether or not to keep them safe, or, or because she didn't feel like they needed to know at the time, or she didn't, or this wasn't the right, or she didn't have the right time to tell them and all that stuff. But yeah. But yeah, I do like how but I do think Oda does a good job of explaining having like in just like 1 or 2 pages explain like the entire thing Vegapunk did, but with like Shaka and all that stuff. And I do like the fact you got the different reactions. Frankie being probably like, oh, this sounds like romantic and all that stuff about the whole history of the ancient kingdom fighting 20 kingdoms and lost in the end and all that stuff. It's like probably not romantic to the citizens of that kingdom, but still, it does sound like a fascinating story, but which it is, of course. With an no, Usopp being spooked the fact that they're learning this with Usopp really like not wanting to know because like everyone who knows about it, of course, dies. And, Usopp doesn't want to risk his life because he's, a scary cat. But yeah, but I'm pretty certain you probably should have realized by now, since he's a Yonko crew member, people will be hunting for him. But yeah. But I do like how Sanji's able to put the pieces together about what happens when people learn about this knowledge. But I do like how Robin is at the first a bit untrusting about what Vegapunk, let's see, has managed to theorize because it's like, shouldn't the government tell you? But it's confirmation that no matter how high up in the position in the government, they will eliminate you for this. And to be fair, it now makes this chapter kind of confirms that, and 100% now, and this makes perfect sense why the world government would be trying to have CP0 assassinate Vegapunk, was arguably their biggest asset in military and scientific might. Given the fact he just created the Seraphims for them and all that stuff. Let's see, something that can replace the warlords and all that stuff. So, yeah. It's because, let's see, they suspect that they probably suspect that he probably knows too much about the ancient kingdom at this point that they can't risk him, let's see, giving that knowledge out to the rest of the world and all that stuff. But yeah. And let's see, I do like how Robin's like, if the government will kill you and all that stuff for doing that, let's see, you couldn't have learned it from Ohara because it's gone. But I do like how he ends up explaining like how the incident shocked the world. He went to pay a visit and all that stuff, and revealing that he was like friends with Clover, and it's like Clover. I figured we wouldn't be. Clover figured would be one of those characters you wouldn't really learn more about because it seems like it was done and done with that one flashback. Like usually, most of the tragedies in the Straw Hats. That flashback. The only one I can think of an exception is like Tom from like a Frankie's flashback, but that's only because we briefly saw him with Roger in Odin's. And well, I guess Strong World showed everyone again, but yeah. But yeah, it's interesting to learn that he was an adventurer, or something he might have been actually a pirate, but like I said earlier, I mean, because of the way he holds that sword, but I think some people forget that, of course. Nolan was also an adventurer, so yeah, pirates weren't the only one that sailed ships and caused trouble. But it's interesting to learn that he was arrested 10 times. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is why the world government had always suspected him of learning about, let's see, the poneglyphs and all that stuff, and that's why they did the Buster Call in the end and the stuff. It's like, okay, clearly this man knows more than we let on. But yeah. But anyway, the one thing that, let's see, what might seem to be like a pointless, wasted effort of risking their lives with them filling out the books, turned out to be a moment of triumph, and in which O'Hara, even though they are gone, still managed to beat the world government as they were able to save all their knowledge and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like let's see, when they see, so all those books, let's see, Oda actually had a plan for them, and that they were going to be saved from the water. Granted, I know that water tends to damage paper and all that stuff, but I guess, let's see, these books were carefully taken out and all that stuff. But yeah, it seems these books were at least better than being burned, I guess. But yeah, these books managed to survive the lake and all that stuff. The Navy ignorantly ignored them, probably because the world government didn't tell them specific details on why these books need to go. So yeah, they managed to save themselves in the end, or at least they managed to win in the end. They managed to preserve their knowledge, even though the people themselves are gone. In a sense, it kind of parallels the ancient kingdom to an extent, with instead of of course poneglyphs, they had regular books. And I really like how the flashbacks of Robin, they emphasize with Robin here to build up those emotions of Robin crying, because it's like, yeah. But I do also like how the Straw Hat's not understanding why she's crying over CR. It's like they think Vegapunk's hurt her feelings, and it goes to show you just how protective they are of Robin, especially after the events of Enies Lobby. But yeah, Robin does. But Robin, of course, does able to confirm to Vegapunk that everything is indeed true. And it is interesting how he wanted to take those books back with him and all that stuff. But of course, he knows that the world government would never allow it. So yeah, but it's interesting to learn that. Let's see, the books, while have been saved, they have ended up being saved by the giants of Elbaf and all that stuff. And this finally confirms that, yes, we are going to Elbaf, and it's clearly going to be a key important factor to find the next poneglyph there. I wouldn't even be surprised if it ends up being there, and it was moved there from Fisherman Islands, because that's where that one was originally there. And should have been like the first one the Straw Hats found, but instead they were able to get it and all that stuff. And it's interesting that the new Giant Warrior pirates were ones to collect those books. So yeah, there's going to be quite a few. So when Luffy's crew ends up reuniting with that group of their Straw Hat fleet again, it'd be interesting to have some conversations between let's see Robin and the Giants about the O'Hara things and why they never ended up telling her this stuff. But yeah, it will be interesting. Can we get that? Damn it. But yeah, but it's interesting that besides Vegapunk also knowing Clover, let's see, Clover and him also knew Dragon and were acquainted with him. And it seems like even back then, before he even founded the Revolutionary Army, he was a part of this group called the Freedom Fighters, which was, well, we don't know anything about this group, but it seems like it was opposing the world government at least, even if it wasn't going directly at war with him. As we learned from Vegapunk, that Dragon seems to actually hate war. So, whether or not, though granted, given the fact that he's wearing sort of Castro-like design, let's see, it is clearly still being a bit of a revolutionary and a fighter, just probably not on a full-scale war and all that stuff against the world government. I do like how they end up, let's see, having a bit of a casual conversation and all that stuff about his head appearance and all that stuff. And how they just both knew about Clover and all that stuff. And I do like how Dragon is able to tell him that, let's see, the giants are preserving that information. Of course, we get to like a bit of a morality debate and all that stuff, with Dragon not being happy Vegapunk joined the world government and becoming their dog. But it's interesting how they both have, let's see, similar desires of changing the world. Dragon for more of the revolutionary rebellion, oppose the government thing, while Vegapunk believes that it's better to try and work on the inside and use the resources he can and make connections with like certain Marines that are reasonable. And we have seen, and we do know that some Marines are reasonable, like Garp, Aokiji when he was one, Fujitora, Smoker, Tashigi, and Kobe. And arguably most members of Sword seem to be reasonable, but we still don't quite know the full extent of this group. But yeah. So yeah, but anyway, but it's also interesting to learn that it will hurt, but I'm not really surprised, but it shouldn't really be surprising, really. And I kind of figured it might have been, given the fact that Robin was called the Light of Revolution and all that stuff. But yeah, so it's like the incident at Ohara. The incident of Ohara is what drove Dragon to like fully take on the world government and declare war of them. It's interesting to learn that he founded the organization with Ivanko and Kuma. So I'm not sure if these three were a part of the Freedom Fighters at first, or they were all part of their own separate rebellion groups. But Dragon decided, you know what, we all have the same common goal. Let's work together to stop the world government and all that stuff, and not let the people of Ohara die in vain and all that stuff. So yeah. That's quite interesting and all that stuff. But anyway, I do like how each of the Straw Hats have their own particular interest in reacting. Nami, I could see Luffy, Nami shippers going on, how that Nami's interested in her future father-in-law. Usopp, let's see, yeah, of course, Elbaf. That is, everyone is hoping to be his big character moment. And let's see, Robin is shocked at the fact that, because like she knows dragons, so and she didn't know this, so it makes her, which does make the question why Dragon never told her this information. I mean, they were with each other for 2 years, and of course, viewed as the light of revolution, if you will. Frankie, of course, being interested in like Kuma and like why he saved us, and why Vegapunk did what he did to him. And Sanji, in annoyance, thinking about how Ivanko is a member of the Revolutionary Army because, well, Sanji does not, Sanji might even tolerate respect to Ivanka, but he probably doesn't really want to be near him or any of his subjects again, if you will. Given his own brief period, but yeah. But it is interesting the fact that Vegapunk sneaked out to go to Elbaf to read all these books. But yeah, and got all the information in his brain there. But yeah, probably get to the biggest controversial thing in the thing. The fact that Soul is not dead, but alive and all that stuff. And Well, it's no surprise because One Piece has a track record of big, sad, emotional deaths that only to be cop outs later. Now, granted, there have been theories that whether or not Sol has been alive due to the fact of ice time capsule ability by Aokiji and all that stuff. All that stuff as that is a good explanation. Granted, this does seem to match with the hint of like Estes Kid looking for the man with a burned scar and all that stuff. With Law paying attention and even Robin getting suspicious. So yeah, hinting that it's probably someone connected to Robin and all that stuff. Now, how do I feel about it myself? Honestly, I actually kind of okay with it because, mostly due to the fact that Robin's reaction just touches me and all that stuff, and also the fact that okay, he's being brought back for a much more important part of the story later on, where stuff like Pal and Pound, it feels like okay, why are these characters still back when they probably should have died? But either way, it is interesting. I'm curious if the but yeah. But I do like how Robin just ends up thanking Vegapunk, and he has something to show them, which I assume is going to be the giant robot that he was talking about earlier. But I do like how he has him sliding and all that stuff. But back to the sort of death thing. But yeah, and we'll admit the one downside with these that you're not going to feel all the same emotions as you did when you realize when you see Sol dying against Aokiji is going to be alive. But I think it's important that even though he's being brought back for an important piece of the story, and to be like probably the man with the burnt scar to find the final bit of the One Piece and all that stuff. So they're probably a very touching reunion when Robin reunites with him, if it's still him and all that stuff. Granted, for we know, he could have just barely survived, died of his wounds, but told his friends what happened in Elbaf and why. Well, at least he managed to stumble upon some giants from Elbaf. Because I forgot he hates giants, and they're able to preserve it and all that stuff. But I think it's going to be him, which is going to be interesting because he originally hated the giants in Elbaf, but now he's relying on their help. But I do like how Luffy and Chopper just trying to control this giant robot and all that stuff, trying to get its commander, saying its names, but Bonnie just thinks they're being childish because it's in One Piece, boys love robots, women don't really care for them. But I do like how we end up finally meeting the actual Vegapunk, an old, let's see, an Albert Einstein look like everyone said, but with an apple head, which I think is based on a theory from Isaac Newton on gravity. But yeah. And apparently the tongue references when Albert Einstein sticked out his tongue once and all that stuff. Barney is, of course, angry to see him, so that will lead to some quite some interesting, let's see, chats with them later. But I do like how he seems a bit goofy of teaching Luffy how to fly in the thing and they fly in the air and all that stuff. But I do like where the chapter is just regularly going with this. And I do like how he goes with Quasar thing. And it does leave and the whole apple head thing leaves a quite an interesting mystery given how he had such a large head, and now it seems it's been replaced by an apple top. Oda's creativity is still spot on here. And I think despite the controversial death thing there, I'll probably give it a 10 out of 10. This is arguably the best chapter in the Egg Island so far. Mostly to those Nico Robin flashback feels and all that stuff. And also Straw Hats learning about the 4th century and the ancient kingdom. That was fun as well. And Luffy, and we finally meet the real Vegapunk. But overall, a very good chapter. I enjoyed it. I am Blue Star Saber signing off. If you managed to listen to this review or even watch it, Even if you're tuning in the background, I thank you for your time and I hope you had a lovely evening. Goodbye.